Excited. Let's get to it. I'm going to do the theme song, then we're going to get prepared. The wonders of having multiple phones in a single household is great. Here we go. Welcome to the ROMKids Show with me. We'll do some crafts and tell some stories. Let's talk about science, art, and history. Welcome to the ROMKids Show, starring you and me. That's the theme song portion of the event. If you are brand new and have no idea what's going on in this major institution's Instagram account, this is the ROMKids Show, a show for kids who want to learn about science, art, and history through the lens of the Royal Ontario Museum. We're really excited to be here today. We're covering a ton of different things, from migration of monarchs and Canada geese, to salmon. We're making these really cool sort of, paper towel, toilet paper tube, birds right here. We're going to talk about my interaction with a monarch and how that was cool, and how you can do science at home and help the scientific community, okay? So if you are a fan of the show, it is good to see you. I know lots of families have started going back to school, whether it's online or in person. So we know that some of our families won't be here watching live, but you will be able to watch this on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow. We do the live show on the Tuesday. We do the recorded show on the Wednesday on YouTube across all platforms. So we're really excited to be here. Oh, Asher and Ethan are here. Nice to see you guys. Hope you are all well. I hear there were some hijinks at your house recently. I wonder what happened there. Okay, so what do you need? You're gonna need paper towel. All right, paper towel, just like that. You're gonna need a brush and some water. I'm not gonna lift the water up. I promise you, I will spill it everywhere. You're gonna need some washable markers. Washable markers are key here because we want the ink to sort of move around, which we'll get to in a bit. So it doesn't really work the same with permanent markers. You're gonna need a toilet tube for our toilet tubing for the body. I had a pair of scissors. You will need a pair of scissors, and that should be it, okay? We're really excited to do this. How are we gonna start? Well, first what I did is we're gonna make our wings first, okay? We're gonna need our wings first. And so you just take a blank piece of paper towel. A nice big piece is really fun and looks good. And then you're gonna start to fill it in with your washable markers. And once we're sort of set up with our art project, then we're gonna dive into our lesson, again, talking about migration, and talking about how you can help the scientific community from home. So fill in your sheet with all sorts of colors, okay? And then I'm gonna finish mine off with some pink, because pink is indeed my favorite of all the colors, okay? So you fill it all in. I'm a big fan of this project because we get to use sort of it's like a mixed media, multimedia, multiple things going on here. So once you've filled in your entire sheet with colors, you can do designs. I did splotches and I left space in between the colors so that they can sort of bleed and blend into each other. But you can also do a drawing. You can do whatever you want. It'll all just get mixed up with our water. So then you're gonna take your, what is this, a brush? You're gonna dip it into your water lightly, okay? You don't need to soak it with water. And then you're going to gently start painting with it, all right? And you'll see as you do that, that the colors start to blend into each other, okay? I'm big, really like the way that those colors look. And then you see here, the purple blends into the orange and sort of creates another color. All right, so this is what you want to be doing with your sheet. Take your time. You can do it later whenever you want. But then what do you end up with, right, is you can see this beautiful way that the colors sort of blend together, right? So then you're going to want to put that aside, let it dry. Later on, in maybe like 20 or so minutes, it will look just like that. Really trying to practice my cooking show vibes here by having things ready and prepared for you, okay? So put that aside. Those are your wings. Now you need to get set on your body, all right? And so I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I know what I'm doing. Okay, so next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your toilet paper tube. Here's a toilet paper tube. and then you're going to cut off 2 strips, okay? So what you do is you sort of cut down into it first, and then you open it up, and then you cut the other way, all right? And so what I got from that were these are a little bit gnarly looking, TBH, but you get 2 strips, all right? 2 strips just like that. Not my best work, I know you can do better at home, but one of these will turn into your beak, all right? And the other one, you're gonna turn into your feet for your bird. So you can see here, I have that 1 strip just like that I've taped on to make my bird beak. It's a giant beak. You know, there's a lot of energy coming off of this bird. And then you can see at the bottom, I took my other strip and I cut it in half, cut some little toes so that my bird can stand around, okay? Once you have done that, then you're gonna decorate everything, okay? So you can see for me, I decorated my bird with pink because it's my favorite color, as well as some blue. I gave it a giant eyes, which I thought looked cool. I painted the beak blue and the feet blue, so that, you know, I don't know, symmetry. And that's how you make your body. In a little bit, we're gonna come back to this and talk about wings, okay? Which are these fun flappy things here. So that's what you wanna do. Make your wings, and then make your body, and then we'll talk about attaching it in a little bit. But what are we talking about today? It's migration, all right? And so there's a lot of movement going on in the world even right now, even in this state of like distancing, is a lot of folks are thinking about going back to school or getting ready to do school from home. And I know there's like a lot of like nervousness and anxiety that can come with it. And the most important thing to know is that's okay. It's okay to feel those feelings. That a lot of us feel different sorts of ways right now, okay? But it got me thinking about the change of seasons. So I'm wearing a sweater today too. September for me has always meant my birthday and going back to school, but it also means migrations, okay? And that's when a lot of different animals start to travel to different parts of the world. So a really good one is we live downtown Toronto. We live like only a couple blocks away from Lake Ontario, and in the spring we woke up every morning with, I would say, the beautiful call of Canada geese flying in that awesome V formation, which I guess inspired the V formation from Mighty Ducks, which is a great Disney Plus reference for today. And we hear them flying past our building, and it was really cool. It kind of made us feel like we were at the cottage. But what was happening there is these Canadian geese were coming up from sort of northern Mexico and the southern states, coming back to Toronto and parts of Ontario to have their babies. And then right now what we're seeing is those Canadian geese are starting to get ready to go back, okay? And that's what happens, right? Every year they have an annual migration north and an annual migration south, all right? So wait, why do animals migrate again? What's the deal with that? Well, for Canadian geese, they migrate south in the winter right now because it kind of gets a little bit cold up here. It's a little bit chilly sometimes. And then they migrate north in the spring because they like to lay their babies here, all right? One of the really cool migration stories is of this creature here, okay? And I'm just gonna scroll down to make sure I get this fact right, but this is a Wimbrel. It's a bird. Okay, it's around Hudson's Bay. It spends its summer around Hudson's Bay, all right? And then it goes south to Brazil, okay? They travel like, so in this one case that they studied, this one Wimbrel, they studied that within 143 hours, it flew 5,000 kilometers from Hudson's Bay in northern Ontario all the way to Brazil. Isn't that like wild? Imagine you doing that. Imagine if that was your flying story, okay? So the Wimbrel, really cool creature right there. But another one that we're gonna talk about today, because a lot of different animals migrate. Salmon migrate sort of once in their life. They come back from the seas to where they were born to have babies. But the one that I really wanna talk about today are marks, okay? These beautiful, beautiful, beautiful creatures. Their migration story is remarkable because it's like millions of these tiny insects that come from Mexico all the way up to Canada, and then they go all the way back to Mexico in the fall. So what we're seeing right now is all of these monarchs start to head south, okay? And do you remember like earlier in the summer when we were seeing a lot of them? That's because a lot of them were having babies, and the monarchs that are born at the start of summer, those aren't the ones that migrate back to Mexico. It's the ones that are born right at the end of summer. Those ones. It's like it's this very special generation right at the end of the season that goes back to Mexico, and they live for something like 8 months. And you can see right here them roosting. Okay, this is a pic of monarchs roosting in Mexico, and isn't that really, really cool? They all huddle together for warmth, because when you see them, they sometimes shiver if they get a little bit cold, because it can still be chilly down there too. Now, before we show a video of my big interaction with a monarch, I want to, hello again everyone, we're talking about monarchs, it's the ROMKids Show right here, there's some cool things that we can do as maybe citizen scientists, maybe as scientifically curious folks, that we can observe ourselves. You know, we don't need a PhD or a bunch of letters after our names to be curious about nature and to be excited by it. So right here, we have 2 monarchs side by side. We have a male monarch and we have a female monarch. And there's one way that's really easy for us to decipher which one is which. And so you can see here, those 2 little dots. Do you see those 2 little dots on that monarch right there? That tells us that this monarch here, sorry, right here, am I pointing in the right way? Yeah, right there, sweet. Those 2 little dots right there signify that that one is a male, okay? And you can see on the female on the other side, it does not have those dots. So that's one way that you can use your curiosity when you're looking at monarchs to decipher if they're male or female, which is kind of cool. It's cool to have those tips and tricks of noticing things in nature. The other thing we know too, oh hey Vincent, what's going on, friend? The other thing too is that monarchs often get confused with viceroy butterflies, okay? And so you can see that the way that you can decipher if it's a monarch or a viceroy is this line right here at the bottom. Do you see that line that comes like sort of across the bottom? That tells you it's a viceroy. If you look at a monarch, which I'm assuming I flipped over right there, you can see there is no line. If we flip back, there is a line. And so that's a really interesting thing about monarchs and viceroys. One cool thing about the viceroy though and monarchs is that they don't taste good, okay? That's something that tells us if that's how they prevent predators from wanting to eat them. You know, maybe a fox or something like that will come across a monarch one day and be like, that wasn't tasty. They'll tell their friends, you know what, that's not a tasty food. Viceroys, though not monarchs, also taste bad. And it's part of a big word called Mullerian mimicry. Google it. It's up on Wikipedia. It's very interesting. Where these 2 types of animals, though distinct, both share a similar look and a defensive mechanism, which is tasting horrible. Imagine if that was your defensive mechanism from staying safe. You don't have like a club tail like an ankylosaurus or Zool, our favorite dinosaur, or big giant horns like a triceratops. It's simply you taste bad, and that is your defense. And the hope is that every animal out there knows that you taste bad. Now, when last summer, when our camp was running, I had the very special opportunity of seeing some monarchs. And so we run this program called EVC, and a bunch of students were taking videos of monarchs to see how they would grow up, all right? And it was really, really fun. They were taking time-lapse videos of these creatures to see how they would eat food when they're a caterpillar. And I wore my caterpillar socks today, my hungry, hungry caterpillar socks. I hope that is in the screen. So that's what was going on there. And we went outside because after they went into their chrysalids, they then sort of turn into a butterfly. And so this one day, we knew that the monarch was going to come out of its casing. And so we got ready to take video. Now, after it came out, this is what happened. And I'm going to try and turn my sound on here so you can see it. All right? You see my shocked face? My absolutely shocked face there? That's a monarch landing on my face. Now get ready. Let's see it from a different angle. Different angle. Same situation. A monarch landed right on my face. It was a shocking moment. Now, what's the deal? What's happening with the monarch here? When they come out of their casing, they are super... Hey, Rachel! Feta! Rachel in the comments right here was the one who was taking the video along with her colleague, Alex. That's so cool that this whole moment happened here. So, what's the deal? When they come out of their casing, their wings are still wet. And if you're a monarch or a butterfly and your wings are wet, you can't really fly that well. So what happens is the monarch has to dry off, all right? And that's what happened in this case. So it came out, it took its first like fluttery wings, realized I'm not ready yet. Look at this bald man right here. He's a great place for me to take a rest before I'm ready to go on my actual journey. So Feta, who grew up sort of in like a Feta container and then landed on my face, that was a wonderful moment for all of us. And that was the science behind why I wanted to land on my face too. It's also like my Instagram pic now, my display pic, so that really worked well for me. Okay, so on this wild episode of the ROMKids Show, we finally made it work with our second camera here in the house. I want to take a moment to talk about what you're going to do next with your bird, okay? So now you've decorated your toilet paper tube to make it look like a bird. You've made a big giant beak or a small beak, whatever you feel in your heart. You made two little waddly feet that go on it too, and you have your whole bird creature. You've painted your paper towel with these wonderful colors, and then hopefully in a little bit it'll be dry, just like that, okay? So what I did to make my wings is I then folded my piece in half, just like so, and then I took my, what are these, scissors that had magically appeared, and then by folding it and then cutting it, you'll get a uniform look on both sides, all right? So for example, if I want it to be sort of pointy at the bottom, I'm just gonna like sort of snip on a diagonal up and around, okay? And so now I have my wings like that, or it's kind of even like a half circle there too, a bowl if you will. So that's how you do that, and you can make any sort of pattern with it that you want. If you want to like cut right into it on the edges so it has a more like a feathery feel, you can do that too. The next thing that I did is I wanted to draw on it, and what I did in that case is I took a permanent marker, and I drew like little V's all over it so that I thought it kind of looked like feathers, all right? And that's how that's how I made my wings for my bird. Birds, one of those creatures that tend to migrate a lot. What I did after all of this is I taped everything down right here for our beak, taped on our legs, and taped on our wings, okay? And you can do any creature. In the past, I made this. This is a butterfly for a monarch episode. And you can see how we just bunched the wing together as opposed to cutting it out individually, all right? So there's lots of different ways that you can make your creature. You can make a whole little family of, such as a bird and a monarch. This bird knows that this monarch does not taste good, and that's why they can be friends. That's why they can be friends. So, now, there's probably a lot of folks at home that might be thinking about, I'm going to be doing some distance learning this year. How can I like stay engaged and stay involved? And one of the ways you can do that is by observing the world around you. And so, for example, that's not looking at monarchs and observing, you know, is this a male or is this a female? You can record data on it. You can make little charts. How many monarchs did you see? How many males did you see? How many females did you see? Or as you're seeing migrating animals, if you see like that V formation of some Canada geese flying above, you can count those out too, and then you can see what was the biggest flock or biggest V that you saw. All right, there's all sorts of ways that we can look at the natural world and be curious and be interested and also learn at the same time. And one of the ways that you can sort of take it up a notch is you can look at exploring this concept of citizen science, all right? And that sort of goes back to the whole point of we can contribute to society, we can contribute to science and biology with even at a young age. We can be 4 and 5 and contribute. We can be 56 and 59 and contribute, okay? And you don't need to have like a degree to even do that. And one of the ways is you can use various different types of apps. I'm sure many of you are familiar with iNaturalist, which is a really cool app where you can take pictures of biodiversity of plants or of fungus or of animals and insects and chipmunks and all those things, and you can load them up to the internet where then other people can identify the specific type of animal or plant it might be. There's another one called Seek, which is a little bit more oriented towards children and allows you to take your phone and turn the camera function on in the app, and it allows you to put it on a plant or an animal or whatever it is, and then it can tell you what kind of plant and animal what you're seeing right in front of you is. So there's really cool ways that you can not only learn for yourself, but provide information and pictures and coordinates of these types of animals to the scientific community for their research, okay? And I know that right now, especially, we might not be able to explore the world or do the things that we might want to in a way that feels normal to us, but maybe that means we explore it in a different way, okay? And that's by taking out your phone and going to a park where you have lots of space. In Toronto, places like that are High Park or Tommy Thompson Park, which has an incredible amount of diversity in their bird and insect population, and it also gives you a lot of space to be able to explore safely, okay? And so those are some ways that you can keep learning during this, interesting time, especially if you're not going to school on a regular basis and maybe doing it more online, okay? What did we learn today? Today we learned that some animals migrate. They do so for safety, they do so for food, they do so for warmth. Previously in other years, you might have had grandparents that migrated down to Florida for the winter months and then came back up north in the summer. We learned that monarchs have a particularly impressive migration where they roost in Mexico. We learned that the final monarchs that are born at the tail end of summer are the ones that make that migration and can live upwards of 8 months. And then when they come back on their trip north, they lay eggs. An interesting thing, if you want to encourage butterflies like monarchs to hang out in your garden, whether it's on a balcony or whether it's in your yard, is you can plant milkweed, and you just want to look up what the appropriate type of milkweed is for your area. And finally, we learned that we can participate in science too, that there's all different sorts of ways that we can learn using various different types of apps and things, that we can take data and write things down of the types of animals that we see out in our backyard. And we also made this super cool, really fun, happy to see it, bird made out of paper towel and a toilet paper tube. And this will hang out with us on the rest of our shows right up over here on our little art corner, all right? Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on this technical difficulty episode. We'll be back next week, Tuesday at 2. I hope you are all having lots of fun, and if you saw Winnie the Pooh recently, definitely tag us in a pic. We are really in love with that exhibit, and we hope that you're having fun exploring the ROM too. See you next week, Tuesday at 2. It's the ROMKids Show. Stay safe, wear a mask, have fun. Bye, everyone.